What's up, everybody? It is Wednesday afternoon, and that means it is Whitewall Wednesday, and it's time to get into some marketing tips and tricks to get the most out of all of your marketing campaigns. So, today, in honor of National Small Business Week, we are going to get into some of the small business do's and don'ts of marketing. We're going to try and keep this pretty simple, so anybody out there can go ahead and use these marketing techniques for their business. What up, Seb? So we're going to take any questions you guys have on marketing today. This is a small business segment, and just go ahead and post down below whatever you have in mind. So just kind of jumping out of the gate here. One thing that I see with a lot of businesses is, the assumption that the product or service is going to be so amazing it should sell itself. That is a very common assumption. Hey, what's up, Luba? And nobody would really open a business if they didn't think their product or service was super amazing. But don't just sort of rely on the fact that your product or service will sell itself. Marketing is definitely one of those things you want to have front on the radar and get that going as soon as you can. So marketing needs to be good, but as soon as you can get it going, you should. Don't wait for a certain point, just get things up and running. So, Luba, we got you on today as well, and Mel, good to see you guys. Like I said before, Small Business Week, National Small Business Week, so any small business questions that you guys have, just go ahead and comment below. So coming out of the gate, I think one thing for small businesses to keep in mind is really the big picture. For an agency like us, we're really going to think about the revenues, where your revenues have been over 12 months versus where they need to go, and we can kind of help set that roadmap a bit. But for a new business who doesn't really have information or much to rely on, start at an even easier level than that, which marketing is just all about eyeballs. How many eyeballs you can reach, and the quality of those, are they the type of people that you want to reach, and what is the cost? But really just keep that basic in mind, and to that extent, just think about who your audience is, where they're going to be located, what platforms they are going to be on. It is a little bit difficult because you don't need to exclude certain platforms as much as just determine which ones to start with. So if you're looking at something on social media, for example, you might start with LinkedIn and then go into Facebook, depending on which kind of business you're going after. But generally, this is all opportunities. This is all fruit on the tree, as I would say. And think about the lowest hanging fruit first. So it's not one or the other as much as which one starts first. But think about who your audience is, where they're going to be, and start trying to really tack some posts and get attention from those platforms. And another really big piece of the puzzle is just going to be testing things out. Business owners know this intuitively, so I won't just say that in a fluffy way, but actually running one headline versus another, using the same image, and just trying out different components. If you have a post that has a different image, a different headline, a different something, it's really hard to analyze what's working better than another. So getting really nitty-gritty and actually testing out the same image with 3 different headlines, or one image or 3 different headlines. So, either an image with 3 different headlines or one headline with 3 different images, whatever it happens to be. But just make sure you're actually doing A/B testing and keeping it as simple as possible. So you really just want to have one variable different, or else you're not sure what's changing the price on advertising and some of the campaigns effectively. So really, really, really small changes in order to help you analyze what's messing with the performance there. We definitely have to go over advertising, which is a necessary evil these days. So if you're still on social media posting and not doing any ads, that is kind of like having a business card sitting in your desk drawer. You need to actually get traffic over to those things, and posting does not do very much the way that it used to 5 years ago. So 5 years ago, you used to be able to put something on Facebook, people would like it, they'd like your page, it was great. It does not work that way these days. It has not worked that way for a few years, but I still see a lot of businesses going into it with that mentality. So advertising is what I'd call a necessary evil, but the good news is you don't need very much money to actually make things work. There are campaigns we can run for $1 a day, and retargeting campaigns, people that have visited your website, $1 a day to stay in touch with them for 2, 3, 4 weeks can increase your conversions considerably because you just didn't fall off the radar. So if someone's comparing you to some other people in town, and they've got 5 different things pulled up on their search, and they go away, and a few days later, they're not going to have that all in mind. If your ad is still there, following them, continuing that relationship, and still nurturing and building that relationship, you will find more conversions for your business. So $1 a day is all you really need. On Facebook, for example, you might spend about $20 per 1,000 people that you reach. That could be more or less depending on what the audience is, but on average we tend to find about $20 per 1,000 people reached. So you can have a really big impact. Compare that to 1,000 postcards or 1,000 of anything else, and you can see the sort of effectiveness of the digital side of things. So, which leads me into my next point. The old way of doing things isn't necessarily dead. Hey, what's up? Glad you could join. So the old way of doing marketing isn't dead. Print, event management, networking, all that stuff still is definitely fruitful. So the digital world is just an addition to that. And if you guys have any questions on digital or print marketing campaigns, just put it in the comments. And we're literally covering everything today for Small Business Week. So whatever questions you have, just let us know. But yeah, the world of marketing has gotten more confusing for people because they want to replace the traditional way with the digital. And unfortunately, that's not exactly the case. Enzo, that's a good question. I guess coming back to the advertising part, how should you break up your advertising budget and for how many days? When you're getting started, a tip that I think is really useful for small businesses is to actually start with a very small budget for just a few days. And the reason being that these advertising platforms are an auction basis. So if you go in with $100, it wants to spend your $100, and it will actually find some pretty expensive opportunities to do that in the process. If you come in for the first few days with literally like $1 or $2 of budget per day, you're forcing the system to find those really good opportunities, those cheap costs. And then when you increase the budget, all of that intelligence is already built into the ad to some degree, and you have a much better chance of capturing low-cost ads. So typically I would start with just a very low budget of $5 or less per day for an ad, just to force the system to really learn all those cheap opportunities, and then you can scale it up a bit from there. So, a week or less at $5 a day. It doesn't have to be too much, but that'll really help you with scaling the advertising. So, yeah, advertising, if anyone ever has questions, just send us a DM. We love this stuff. But, and towards Enzo, so that's our art director at Whitewall, by the way, he can tell you better than anybody else the importance of branding and design and just how much that can affect the brand. So a lot of people will go on and sort of find an image and create posts on the fly, and it will go a long way just to choose 2 or 3 fonts that your brand will use, 2 or 3 colors that your brand will use, and start to really have a consistency in that branding and that design. That's what gives a brand a really high-end, detailed sort of quality finish to it, is just that consistency. So as simple as it might sound, very, very first step for any brand is going to be creating a brand guideline document, which can really just be one page long. If you're a small business, don't overthink it, and just put down what is your font, what is the font in your logo, what is the font going to be for the titles on your website, and what is the font going to be for probably the body copy. So those are the 3 that you might find that you're working with, but just identifying those and making sure that you use those in all of your social media posts and you keep that clean and consistent will go a very, very long way to making you look like a high-end brand. And Enzo, just a quick shout out. I've seen a lot of the stuff you're putting out on your design side, and I love that. So I'm just watching your channel. it's cool to see a lot of the work that you're doing in there. So even Enzo, with all of his experience, still tests things out, tries different things, and I encourage business owners to take the same approach. In your advertising or in your copy, you might, for example, one of the classic things that we'll test is product versus lifestyle imagery. So we might have a picture of a plate of food or a picture of people hanging out at a table eating. Right, so one includes the lifestyle shot of people engaging with something, and the other one would just be the actual component, or a car versus someone driving the car. So trying out those different kind of concepts, that's something we'll still work with to this day. Got another question: is it okay to change brand files until you find the one that's best for you? So yeah, I mean, most stuff in marketing is a living item, and I guess small business owners, that's one mistake I hear a lot is, once it's set up, it's done, right? So once a marketing company puts an advertising campaign in place, what else needs to happen? Yeah, well, going back to what I just said, these are all living items. The brand guideline document, advertising, websites, all of this stuff is constantly in motion. So the brand guideline document, just like a logo or anything else, has flexibility, and you can see that Gap has changed their logo over the years, and Barbie and all sorts of stuff. I mean, logos are constantly changing from big brands, small brands, along with brand guideline documents and color choices. So absolutely, that's a good question. The brand guideline document is not set in stone. It's just something that you want to keep consistent, and when you need to change it, you can, and all the assets will change sort of in unison accordingly. So it's more to help you keep things consistent, but absolutely it's flexible, just like everything else in marketing. And what's the best way to go about a brand file without knowing how you want your brand to be? So a brand file is part of an exploration process as well. But as you're going through fonts and colors and you're actually putting those into social media posts and you're getting those running through, you'll pretty quickly identify whether you like what's happening or not. So one of the best things with the design side is it is very visual. So you can see it and kind of start picking up on how you feel about it right away. So if your brand isn't quite matching what you wanted it to be, and you wanted really dark elements, you wanted really floral elements, or there's a certain component that's not quite hitting, that's when you would go back to the brand guideline document and say, well, I thought that was going to work, that isn't really what I wanted, let's adjust and have this as the measure. And as long as the team has that brand guideline document, it's been updated and everybody understands and has it on the same page, or maybe it's just you as a solopreneur, but your social, your email, your web, you kind of keep that consistent, you can change that at any time that you want. So, big shout out to our design team. Go check our website, Whitewallmedia.agency, if you haven't seen some of the stuff that we've done, but definitely I love our group. But the big picture is this is something that shifts from year to year, and if you look at the design profiles of the 80s versus the 90s versus, just decade to decade, styles change all the time. So absolutely, you should have a marketing team that understands that things will change and can help you understand how to change. Just because something works at one point doesn't mean you want to keep that for years and years and years. So don't let it just be static by any means. And marketing, I guess one of the other sort of big things that I see, if I could suggest something to business owners, is where to place your focus and attention. So I see a lot of business owners that want to go capture the next opportunity. Most prospects we meet don't actually reach their existing Facebook fans on a monthly basis. They don't reach their existing Instagram fans on a monthly basis. There's a lot of people that have asked to be in touch with you, and they are brand supporters, they're cheerleaders. So my big reminder to business owners is to start with retention. And retention, in my mind, is a combination of kind of like customer service and engagement. So just really treating customers as, as a friend, understanding, their profiles, not just that they've been to your website, but what pages they visited, and being able to speak towards their specific interactions with your brand. And on top of customer service, really looking at the engagement. So following up with people through newsletters, through promotions, giveaways, getting some swag out to your customers, getting holiday cards out, keeping that engagement going. So customer service is kind of a broad term, but if you think of customer service plus engagement as kind of that retention tool, retention should be the basis of any company. Even if you say, well, it can't be the basis of my company because I only work with people once, it's just the nature of my business. Well, perhaps that person can refer someone else, or perhaps they can put a review on your website, or perhaps they can, there's always a retention program and policy that should be considered. So whereas marketing is often thought of as how do I go find the next person, the pillar that we kind of start with is actually retention, customer service plus engagement. So considering that a small business, especially these days, doesn't have much money, kind of feeding off of what we were just talking about, your sales funnel might actually be upside down as well, which is kind of a crazy concept for people. But usually think of a sales funnel as finding new people, sending them to your website to convert them, and finishing a sale or something like that. If you're a small business owner, your funnel might be upside down, and treating your existing base and friends and family and customers as well as you can so that they tell more people and then people are then found might actually be more of what your sales funnel looks like. So retention policies are just incredibly important because the sales funnel is often misunderstood, especially for businesses that have smaller budgets. And if you're going to flip the script on how the sales funnel works, it starts with really just creating a raving, awesome fan base of people that love you, support you, and know what you do, and actually working up from there. So engagement through newsletters, promotions, giveaways. There's a lot of stuff that you can do in there, but be pleasant, stay engaging, and kind of keep that in motion. So I think we've covered a handful of bases today, and I don't know if we have some more questions here, but I appreciate those questions. Those were all very well thought out. And I guess the other big tip for small businesses is put your phone on Do Not Disturb before you go live on Instagram so you don't get interrupted. So that's the last big tip here. But yeah, shout out to Mel, Liuba, Enzo. You guys are definitely awesome. Core of the team. Check out what we're doing on Whitewall Media. If you want to steal some great ideas, we probably have them there. At this point, if you practice what we preach, which is kind of sticking 100 days ahead, you should be thinking about Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Christmas, and actually building assets towards those. So there are Christmas trees in the stores. Think about where your business should be right now, where your audiences are, how to reach them. And this is a lot to take in, but hopefully that helps. If you have any questions, just shoot us a message in the DM or find us online, Whitewallmedia.agency. And like I said, we're here every week, 4 o'clock. We do have some big things cooking, so we will have more events for you every Wednesday here at 4 o'clock. So glad you could join. Catch you guys next time, Whitewall Wednesdays. Nick Moss, I'll see you next time, guys.